Dude, I just texted you like 27 times. I have so much to catch you up on. How bad does that look? I feel like the reflection is obnoxious. It's very yellow in here. If I face my ring light towards me, then it's... Also, my camera is so far away, I genuinely can't tell if it's focused on me. Hold on. Okay. I feel like that's better. I can at least see if I'm focused. Sort of. I don't know. Literally every single time I turn on the camera, I freeze. And I don't know how to start it. It just feels weird turning on a piece of equipment and being like, hey guys. So I just need to be awkward for like the first 2 minutes. You have no idea how much footage I cut out at the beginning of every video of me just being like this. Sorry. Scene. Hey. Hours of that. Maybe someday I'll make a compilation. But for now, we're gonna act natural. Hey, hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Brostaff, and this is a series called FaceTime with Emily, where I film myself doing a mundane task and chat with you during that task as if we are on FaceTime. You're getting an inside scoop to what my friends experience 3 to 4 times a day. You're welcome. Should that be like the official tagline? Or like, is there something I can do to like make it spicier where you're like, haha, that's hilarious? Let me know down in the comments. Because I feel like every time I start FaceTime with Emily, I need to be like, hey, welcome back. This is FaceTime. Because if people are like new and this is the first time they're clicking on a FaceTime with Emily, they're going to be like, what? Stop. They're going to be like, what the heck is going on? And so I feel like I need to introduce a little bit. So I feel like keeping the phrase like, you know, welcome back to FaceTime with Emily, a series where I do a mundane task and I chat with you during it as if we're on FaceTime. But is there like another sentence I can put after that where it would like wrap it up nicely and you'd get a little chortle in? Is that a word? I don't know. Anyway, also, no one noticed last video, or at least if they noticed, no one commented or DM'd me about it, which was very polite. But my last FaceTime with Emily, I recorded it on my actual vlogging camera, which I have now gotten the screen fixed. So now I can at least see myself and I'm not upside down, but there's still so much damage to the camera from just being like 5 years old that what should have taken me about 2 hours to edit the last video took me about 8. Because every time I slightly moved my head or put something in front of the screen to show the camera, the color would drastically change. So it's like the color receptors in the camera are freaking out. I don't know what the terminology is, but basically I'd go from like being orange to being like super shadowy to being really blown out. It was a mess. And so I spent 8 hours basically frame by frame color correcting, and either people didn't notice or like I said, they were nice enough not to say anything. But I'm gonna try and watch that in my viewfinder. I really try to talk into the camera, because when I'm watching someone's YouTube video, I don't like watching them vlog like this and like watching themselves in the viewfinder. Because if you don't know, this is what my vlog camera looks like. Great. And so a lot of YouTubers, when they're vlogging, they just stare at themselves in the viewfinder as they're talking to the audience and, you know, whatever. And I don't like that. I don't like that. So I really try and talk into the lens instead of into the viewfinder, but occasionally you're going to see me peeking up at the viewfinder to make sure I have not turned orange. Also, remember the first FaceTime with Emily where I was like, I promise to be a little more put together? Hello? This is what we're working with today. So, I mean, I showered and I put on a little bit of mascara. I feel like that's better than the little grease ball video that I gave you you know, the very first time, but not as put together as I could be. But you know what? That's why it's called FaceTime with Emily, because you're getting a realistic look as to who I am and what I look like. Anyway, okay. I bet you're wondering, after 5.5 minutes, what's Emily's mundane task today? Thank you. How does one stop being awkward? I know a lot of people do it, and like I'll do it sometimes. We're all like purposely be awkward about something because like it's a little bit of a joke. But genuinely, when I look at my life, maybe 80% of the time that I'm being awkward, it's just who I am, and I don't know how to stop. So I know there's like that whole thing out there where like millennials are so cringy because they're always just trying to be awkward. It's just who I am. Sorry. Anyway, I need to get it together. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I bet you're wondering, Emily, what is today's mundane task? Thanks so much for asking. Right now it is January 13th, Saturday, and we learned on Tuesday, maybe? We learned that there is going to be a potential of snow on Monday, which means like they're calling it a freeze. And if you don't know, I live in Austin, Texas, and although our version of winter is like it occasionally getting down to 65 during the day, when freezes and like cold fronts, whatever the terminology is, come through, we are so unprepared for it, it literally shuts down our state. I have a bunch of people on my TikTok that are like laughing at Texas right now, and they're like, y'all are so dumb, you don't know how to handle the cold, and why don't you just go to the Weenie Hut Junior down the street? And I'm like, no, I actually used to be that way. I actually used to think that when my girlfriend would tell me about how like there was a light dusting of snow and literally she had off work for 2 days and like the streets were shut down and whatever. Here's what's going on. It's not that the individual citizens are unprepared. What is unprepared is our state and our government. Thank you so much, Gregory Abbott. You rock. He had 2 years to plan. Two years to get his together. Did he? No, because that's on being a Republican. No offense if you're one. Actually, take offense. Anywho, so basically the state of Texas is not equipped to handle any type of cold weather scenario. Our pipes are not built to withstand anything below like 40 degrees. Literally, we do not have salt trucks. And so it's not that like we as the common folk are like, ah, snow. No, it's Gregory Abbott and everyone else in government here in Texas. They have not allocated the funds, the time, the money, the planning towards making our state prepared for a freeze. And so basically we got this really scary email. I got a phone call. I got 2 texts from our government, our like local state people, our little county people, telling us what we need to do to prepare because the government's not going to help us. So we got to help ourselves. Long story long, what I'm doing today, my mundane task is preparing for the freeze. So even though it's Saturday, it's supposed to get down to freezing temperatures tomorrow, and then Monday it's supposed to snow. So we're thinking everything is going to be shut down tomorrow, Monday, and Tuesday, and potentially Wednesday. I'm hoping not, because the temperature is supposed to go up on Tuesday, but you just don't know with this godforsaken state. So that is what I'm doing. I'm prepping. I'm already planning that our power is going to go out and that we're not going to have water, because I feel like it's better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. I'm not one of those people that's going to go to the grocery store and buy up all the toilet paper, but we did get provisions. Like we got pantry food that doesn't need to be refrigerated. We got food that doesn't require electricity to make, but there is a lot of food that we have in our freezer and our refrigerator where if our power does go out, I don't want it going to waste. We still have other food we can eat, but I don't want that going to waste. And I was thinking to myself, like, if our power does go out because it's so cold outside, why wouldn't we take the food in the refrigerator and set it out on the balcony, because we're not on the first floor, and so like I don't think animals could really get to it, and then it's obviously very cold. I don't know what about that plan where I'm like, no, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work, chief. So now I'm in a panic and I'm like, all right, I have to cook the food that's in our refrigerator and freezer so that it doesn't go to waste, and so that I don't have to put it out on the porch and be staring out of the blinds wondering if something's gonna happen to it. So that's what we're doing today. We're gonna prep all the food and I'm gonna chat with you while I do it. All of the precautions that our, 2 emails, 2 phone calls, and 2 text messages told us, okay, focus, great. Told us that there's like a list of things that we should do to prepare. Let me just preface this with the things I had heard to prepare for a freeze is obviously like get some food you can eat without electricity, to leave your faucets dripping. If someone a lot smarter than me can explain it to me like I'm 5, why leaving a faucet dripping stops the pipes from freezing and bursting, I really appreciate that, because to me it doesn't really make sense, but I think I'm just dumb. I don't know. And then I know there's like lots of stuff on TikTok that are like how you can stay warm. Like genuinely, I didn't realize until I started educating myself about it 2 years ago, which was the last time that Texas had a freeze like this, people died. So many people died because Texas is so unprepared. So like 2 years ago when it happened, the entire power grid shut down. And so people were without heat for like 4 days. People froze to death in their apartments. A lot of people's pipes burst. I know my girlfriend was not living in this apartment, but a different one when that happened. And she was the only apartment in her entire building where her pipes did not burst. And so she was the only one with like a dry apartment. So everyone had like leaking pipes. And so obviously if it's freezing outside, you have no electricity and there's damp water splashing everywhere and all over the floor, you're gonna not be okay. And so like people died. And so that's why I'm like, you literally had 2 years to prepare for this. And yet you're like, eh. So that's great. But anyway, that's all I really know is like have blankets, have warm clothes, keep your heat on, keep your faucet dripping, have the food. I know a lot of people, if you think the freeze is gonna last for a long time, like it's supposed to be like a huge winter storm for a week or whatever, you can actually buy a tent and set it up, like a good quality tent if you can afford that, and set it up in your living room. And like you're supposed to hunker down in that tent if your power goes out, because tents that are good quality are meant to keep heat trapped and meant to keep cold out. And so that was like a suggestion I saw on TikTok, which I thought was pretty cool, but obviously not everyone has the means for that. Also, I'll get to my point eventually, I promise. One thing I'm like, I cannot stop thinking about it, and it has brought me to tears several times in the past 24 hours. There are tons and tons and tons and tons of unhoused people here in Austin because typically we have a very hospitable outside environment. So if you're unhoused, you're gonna go somewhere warm. So you're gonna come to Austin, you're gonna go to San Diego, you're gonna go to LA. So that's why you tend to find a lot more unhoused people in warm areas. And so we have a huge population here and a lot of them have dogs. And so not only did I realize last night when we were coming home from our little date night and we had to walk through the cold, not only did I realize that all of these homeless people, a bunch of them are just gonna have to hunker down and figure it out, because once the shelters max out, they won't allow any more people in. And it's like these shelters are not prepared to take in this amount of people. And so like genuinely it makes me want, like it makes me so sad, because a lot of these people are going to have to hunker down and just try and make it through with nowhere to go. So that makes me have a crisis. Then I realized last night and sobbed about it to my girlfriend during our date night that basically all of these unhoused individuals that have pets, they have to make the decision if they are able to go into a homeless shelter. You can't bring a pet in with you. And so they have to make the decision, do they drop their dog at an animal shelter and then they will never see that dog again? Because once they take the dog to the animal shelter is not going to release it back to them when they don't have a home and they don't have what they consider the proper means to take care of that animal. So do they give up this animal that they've raised and had for years to the animal shelter so that the animal can be safe and then they can be safe in a shelter if they can find one? Or do they just hunker down and try and see if the both of them make it through it? That sent me into a crisis last night. So it literally kept me up. I went to bed, I think we crawled into bed at like midnight, couldn't fall asleep until 1:30 because I was just sitting there thinking about that and sobbing. So don't forget to donate to your local shelters so that they can open their doors to more people. And so these scenarios don't have to happen. But anyway, okay, hold on, I gotta switch out my battery. Great. Sorry to be such a Debbie Downer. This is how my brain works. But these are the other things that our government sent us that they said we could do to prepare. Didn't know this one. Open your cabinets beneath the kitchen and bathroom sinks to help keep the pipes warm. I don't know why that never occurred to me. Never thought to do that. It said tune into the local news stations for more updates. It says if a pipe break occurs in your rental or rental complex, contact your property manager. Okay, here's the thing. If I'm being honest, I actually didn't read through this text until just this very moment. And I'm like, you're telling me nothing. What is this? You're saying follow us on social media, turn on your TV while your power's out to watch the news and get updates, and then contact your property manager if a pipe bursts. Thanks so much. Anyway, this is what I'm talking about, how the state is so unprepared. I grew up on the East Coast where we have, also if you're wondering, I'm gonna cut up veggies and roast them because I have 2 heads of broccoli, a whole bag of rainbow carrots, and 2 onions. And I want to get them taken care of in case our power goes out. Plus, it's like a meal that I can eat cold. I know some people might think that's gross, but I'll eat roasted veggies cold. So if our power does go out, I have something nice to eat. What was I saying? What I was saying is I grew up on the East Coast and we had tons and tons and tons of hurricanes. One hurricane, I can't remember what it was. I think it was Hurricane Isabel. We actually lost power for 10 days and I had to go sleep at my dad's office building because we didn't have air conditioning, and obviously the hurricane hit during the summer, and so it was like brutal. My parents have lost 2 cars in hurricane floods. Thankfully our house is like up on a little bit of a hill, and so thankfully the ocean water and just like the sewer water that backs up during hurricanes wouldn't touch our house, but definitely ruined a few cars. So like, I know how to hunker down for a disaster, but I know how to hunker down for a disaster in a state that knows how to handle it. So this is gonna be interesting. And if I'm being completely honest, this could either be an experience for me where I'm just like, oh, that was scary, or like this could literally be nothing. Like literally the cold front could come through and we get like a light dusting and then we're all back to work on Tuesday. So I don't know. But like I said, better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. So that's what we're doing.